and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top stories that we're tracking for you this evening. No consensus within the top GST rate panel on changing or reducing the tax slabs. Group of ministers discuss reducing the tax on life and health insurance ahead of the council meeting in September. Sources say some relief is likely for Infosys, foreign airlines and shipping companies. Adani Group promoters are looking to sell their stake to reduce the conglomerate's debt burden. Sources say promoters may look to sell up to 5% stake each in Adani Power and Ambuja Cements. That's a CNBC Awaaz exclusive. Insolvency proceedings against crisis-hit Byju's to resume again as the Supreme Court refuses to provide any interim relief. The Apex Court upholds the formation of the Committee of Creditors, refuses to stay the proceedings. Minutes of the monetary policy meeting showed divisions within the panel. Governor Das and RBI members remain firm on the 4% inflation target and argue that growth is steady. Two external members say the monetary policy is exceedingly restrictive and growth is showing signs of softening. The government is likely to rule out any further tranches of sovereign gold bonds. Sources say the bonds are expensive and complex. A CNBC TV 18 analysis showed that investors had doubled their money in the first 4 tranches. Brokerages wave a thumbs up to Zomato's 2,000 crore rupee acquisition of Paytm's ticketing business. The street expects an upside of over 25% in the Zomato stock price. At least 17 people are dead, 40 injured after an explosion at a pharma factory in Andhra Pradesh. Police say a solvent leak is likely to have triggered the fire, which led to the blast in a reactor. The Supreme Court says the RG car murder case should not be politicized, even as it questions the conduct of the Kolkata police over its handling of the case. The court urges doctors to return to work, says it will ensure that the law takes its own course. After holding bilateral talks in Poland, Prime Minister Modi is set to visit Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, amidst the ongoing war with Russia. The trip to Ukraine comes just over a month after the Prime Minister visited Russia. US President Joe Biden presses Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu to show urgency in sealing a ceasefire deal. 22 people reportedly killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours, taking the overall death toll beyond 40,200 since the war began. Tim Walz accepts the Democratic Party's vice presidential nomination at the Chicago convention. Popular talk show host Oprah Winfrey makes a surprise appearance endorsing the Harris-Walz ticket. As always, let's start with the market action today. The sensex did gain over 120 points and the nifty was up by about 40 points in what was a range-bound trading session. The mid-caps did outperform the blue chips, with the mid-cap index gaining about 400 points. The Nifty Bank added about 300 points today. Well, block deals galore on the Lal Street. Shares of Kalyan Jewelers, Alchem Labs, PNB Housing Finance, Eris Life Sciences and NIIT were in focus after their equity changed hands in deals worth 6,000 crore rupees. 6.4% equity of Kalyan Jewelers, worth over 3,500 crore rupees, changed hands. Sources say Warburg Pincus is the likely seller. A promoter of Alchem Labs sold 0.7% equity to rake in nearly 500 crore rupees. So those are the big block deals for the day. Now, the ministerial panel on GST rate rationalization has said that there is no need to change the existing GST slabs or rates for now. The panel, comprising state ministers, met in the capital today to discuss the issue ahead of the crucial GST Council meeting next month. The minister said that demands for reviewing the 18% GST on health and life insurance premiums was discussed as well. Timsy Jayapuria is standing by with more details. So, Timsy, it's very clear any expectation of any changes as far as rates or slabs are concerned should be done away with.
The much-awaited group of ministers on rate rationalization under the GST framework met today at North Block. The convener, Samrat Chaudhary, Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, said that the group of ministers has taken stock of all the issues, including whether there should be any changes in slabs, any reduction in number of slabs or the rates. He said not every member was in favor of this. Also, he said that a lot of representations have come in from beverage association, from restaurant associations, from gaming industry and from insurance industry on rate changes, and the group of ministers is deliberating on the matter. However, no decision has been taken on any of these proposals as yet. Also, a member to the group of ministers, Chandrima Bhattacharya, West Bengal finance minister, said that she is not in favor of tinkering with the slabs or with the rates currently. She said that she has put forward the request of West Bengal, where West Bengal CM has already written to the finance minister seeking an exemption on GST on health insurance and medical insurance. She said fitment committee is looking into it. Krishna Bairegowda, Karnataka's member to the GST Council, also said on rate changes, he said, why disturb something which is going on smoothly, suggesting that he's not in favor of any changes in the slabs or the rates. Also on the insurance, he said more data is being sought by the group of ministers. Let's listen in.
सब चीज़ों पे चर्चा हुई है, आगे विस्तार से भी अभी और भी बैठ के हम लोग को करनी है इसमें। अभी सभी लोगों ने अपने अपने व्यू दिए हैं। कुछ लोगों की ये है मांग कि किसी तरह का कोई स्लैब में छेड़छाड़ नहीं किया जाए, तो अभी बैठ के और होंगी तब इस पर हम लोग कुछ डिसाइड कर पाएंगे।
सर, क्या 3 स्लैब लाने की बात हुई? 4 से 3 लाने के लिए?
नहीं, अभी कोई स्लैब में चेंजेस की कोई बात नहीं।
So that's clear. No change in rates or slabs as far as the GST is concerned. Remember, that big meeting of the GST Council is slated for September. Some relief, though, is expected for companies like Infosys, for foreign airlines and even shipping companies. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 the government could amend its June circular, providing some respite on taxing services imported by Indian branches from overseas head offices. The GST Council is likely to take up the matter in its upcoming meeting on the 9th of September. The big corporate story, the Adani Group promoters are looking to sell stake to reduce the conglomerate's debt burden. Yatin is standing by now with more details. Yatin, take us through what is on the anvil.
Well, we gather from sources that Adani Group has plans to deleverage at the promoter group level by paring down stake in Ambuja Cements as well as Adani Power. Sources close to the transaction have indicated that the promoters might look to sell up to 5% stake in both Ambuja Cement as well as Adani Power. And if you remember, Ambuja Cement was a leverage buyout, so probably the creditors would be repaid via the proceeds of the transaction, which is expected to be close to 15 to 20,000 crores, depending on the size of the block trade. Obviously, the bankers have indicated that offer for sale is also one window wherein the promoters could reduce stake in both of these, group entities. When we contacted Adani Group, they did not comment on this particular story.
Yatin, many thanks for joining us. Now, trouble mounting for crisis-hit edtech company Byju's. The resolution professional has initiated insolvency proceedings against the company and set up the committee of creditors. Now, this happened just ahead of the hearing in the Supreme Court today. Byju's complained that the U.S. lenders comprise of 98% of the COC. However, the top court has refused to stay the formation of the COC and has allowed it to initiate the IBC proceedings against the company. Ashmit is standing by with more details. Ashmit, a big setback there for Byju's. Of course, the matter will be taken up by the top court again in a few days from now. But where does this leave the EdTech company?
Well, that's the next date of hearing on Tuesday. Byju's will be hoping for some relief, but as of right now, no stay has come. The COC is free to conduct its first meeting, which incidentally is on the same day of the next hearing. So August 27th, which is Tuesday of next week, will be critical. But here's some context to it all. Just earlier this week, just 2 days back on Tuesday, Byju's had moved the apex court, whereby they had expressed the same concern. They had expressed the concern that the Supreme Court's stay of the NCLAT order could be perceived as a green light for the COC for the insolvency proceedings. That, in fact, has materialized. Just hours before today's hearing, late last evening, is when we understand the RP had constituted the COC. The reason that's significant is because the COC being constituted marks the initiation of insolvency proceedings, marks for the very first time the company falling out of the hands of Byju Ravindran as far as this entire insolvency saga is concerned. And as you correctly pointed out, there were concerns raised by Byju's today before the apex court that is this really a fair practice given that 98% of the COC is made up by the US lenders, which in fact are the applicants in this case. This was also pointed out that the RP that has been, in fact, who formed the COC is the very RP that was sought by the US lenders themselves. However, the apex court not seeing it fit to stay the COC proceedings in any shape or form. There were fervent appeals that came not just from Byju's but also from the Solicitor General appearing for the BCCI, saying that at least there should be a stay on the first meeting of the COC. The apex court saying that, look, if tomorrow the US lenders appeal is rejected, the COC will anyways have to go. The COC will anyways be set aside. So no grounds made out for a stay of COC proceedings. So COC can continue, but the first meeting is on the same date as the next hearing in this case, which is August 27th.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Now, markets across the world await U.S. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole, which is expected tomorrow. The minutes from the U.S. Fed's June meeting suggest that a majority of policymakers believe it would be appropriate to cut rates in September if data trends remain similar. Now, if the Fed cuts rates in September, this would be the first cut since the emergency easing during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, tracking that very closely. Back home, the minutes of the RBI monetary policy meeting showed divisions within the panel. Governor Das and RBI members remain firm on the 4% inflation target, arguing that growth remains steady. But two external members say the monetary policy is exceedingly restrictive and growth is showing signs of softening. Take a look.
A very high real rate makes capex unattractive to the corporate. And if demand is inadequate, that also does that. And restrictive monetary policy is one of the things driving demand as well. If we think that demand is deficient, that the economy requires very large fiscal support because private demand, the private consumption expenditure is not growing, then we have to ask, what have you done? Is monetary policy part of the problem?
The budget deficit is conservative. It's on the fiscal consolidation part. So the excess demand stimulus from government is going down. And so there's space for monetary policy to support demand more. And we're not using that space. So we are restraining growth.
It's not the supply side alone. I think that is important, looking at the growth rate. In that context, 7% growth rate appears to be fairly strong growth at this point. So I think, if we need to raise this 7% growth to 8%, I don't think the present demand conditions support that. Inflation on the major components of the basket of consumption is moderate.
Well, MPC minutes there. Three external members of the MPC, Ashima Goyal, Shashank Bhide and Jayant Verma, who you just saw, have now bid farewell to the committee. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 that the government is in the process of appointing new part-time members to the committee. The appointments are expected to be finalized before the next MPC meeting, which is scheduled for the 7th to the 9th of October. So it's the end of the tenure for the three external members of this MPC, and the next set will be appointed shortly, is what we're given to understand. The union government is unlikely to sell any more sovereign gold bonds. The scheme was launched in 2015 to curb gold imports that had led to an increase in the current account deficit. Government sources tell us that sovereign gold bonds are currently one of the most expensive and complex instruments for the government. Sources say the government's liabilities in gold bonds have increased by 9 times since FY20 to 85,000 crore rupees in FY25, and which is why the scheme may not see any further bond issuances. Days after launching its CNG motorcycle, Bajaj Auto has sought a reduction in the GST on the segment. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 the automaker wants CNG two-wheelers to be on par with electric vehicles and also attract a lower GST. Remember, electric vehicles attract a 5% GST rate. Sources say the fitment committee will consider the proposal soon. Currently, two-wheelers attract a uniform GST rate of 28%. And speaking of Bajaj Auto, the two-wheeler maker has received an approval for 13 vehicles under the production-linked incentive scheme. We learned that it is the only company to get a nod for all the vehicles that it applied for. Sources add that the approvals include both 2- and 3-wheelers. Earlier this week, Ola Electric had said it received PLI benefit certification for 2 of its vehicles. And staying with two-wheelers, TVS Motor Company has rolled out the new Jupiter 110cc scooter, which will replace the old model. The scooter will compete in the ICE category with the likes of Honda Activa and Hero Pleasure. Parikshit Luthra caught up with the CEO, K.N. Radhakrishnan, on the new launch and the possibility of an EV product from the company this quarter.
We can, at any point of time, we can come up with any fuel, any kind of, innovation. So we are very closely watching this space. And we have a very strong product plan, and we want to deliver. As of now, these are the 3 products. Today, Jupiter 110, all next generation platform what we have launched. You will see an EV from TVS soon on the two-wheeler side and an EV three-wheeler.
Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu released guidelines to boost seaplane operations under the Udan scheme. The demo seaplane could be introduced as soon as next month from Andhra Pradesh's Vijayawada. Under the revised norms, requirement for water aerodrome license has been waived. Mandatory land rating clause has also been removed. The minister also said that the government is considering extending the Udan scheme by 10 more years. Take a look.
In the coming month, if not September, in October at least, we are going to have one demo plane in this country, and we are going to connect some important points in this country. Whatever RCS connectivity seaplane network is there, the government is going to provide viability gap funding, so that if any sector is feeling that they are not getting the necessary passengers, the route will be reimbursed by the central government. We want to extend it for another 10 years, and we want to see where all there could be a scope for improvement. We are going to bring that into place, and we are going to launch RCS 2.0.
Now, Dabur will soon set foot in South India with its first manufacturing unit. The FMCG giant has signed an MOU with the Tamil Nadu government to set up a facility in the state's Sipcot Food Park. Dabur will invest 400 crore rupees over 5 years, of which 135 crore rupees will be for phase 1 of the project. The move is expected to generate 250 jobs. India's dairy giant Amul is ranked as the world's strongest food and dairy brand as per Brand Finance report. Amul has risen from the second rank in 2023 to become the world's top food brand in 2024 with a AAA rating. Speaking to my colleague Manisha Gupta, Amul's managing director Jayan Mehta said the company is looking at double-digit growth in the festive season.
The markets are very good in terms of the demand as far as our dairy products are concerned. And the pricing is also quite reasonable and stable. So we don't anticipate any increase in prices of any of the products. We had an investment plan of about 12,000 crores for 2 years, which was announced in the last World Food India. We have already done half of it, and another half of it, which is another 5,000-6,000 crore rupees, will be is underway, and which will be done in a matter of 1 year. So we are having a long-term plan of growth in the categories, not just of milk, but entire range of milk products. And starting with procurement to processing and marketing, expansion is happening across products, across branches.
Well, that's Amul. Now, Zomato has acquired Paytm's ticketing business for over 2,000 crore rupees as it looks to expand its presence in the going out segment. Brokerage firms have given a thumbs up to the purchase. They expect an upside of over 25% in the Zomato stock price. The stock has already doubled so far in 2024. In fact, over the last 12 months, it's almost tripled in value. Mangalam is standing by with more on what this deal means for Zomato. Mangalam.
Well, the script is out. What is that? After 2 months of speculation, reportage, and the companies talking about being in touch with each other, Zomato's acquisition of Paytm's ticketing business for a little over 2,000 crore is their new bet on the going out business itself. Remember, they've announced a foray into that through their third app, which is District, which could launch anytime in the next few weeks, as per Deepinder Goyal itself. This will be their third app after, of course, the roaring success of both Zomato as well as Blinkit. So to understand what Zomato's game plan here is, how big can this be from a shareholder value creation standpoint, let's take a look at a couple of numbers. The business that they've acquired from Paytm, they had a gross merchandise value of close to 2,000 odd crores. They had a revenue of 297 crores as of FY24 with EBITDA of close to 29 crores itself. Now, these numbers imply at 2,048 crore, the deal was done at a one-time GMV and 7 times sales business, which has an implied take rate of 15% and margins of 1.5% of GMV. What does Zomato plan to do post-acquisition? They intend to transition customer traffic from Paytm Insider, Ticket New, all these apps to District, and also incentivize customers to move to District. So you and I as customers could brace for a lot of offers as well. They're targeting FY26 GOV at over 10,000 crore rupees with rapid growth, which implies a 40% CAGR as well. We also see medium to long-term margin potential of anywhere between 4 to 5% as a percentage of GOV. Additionally, they say further scale will depend on newer use cases beyond just ticketing like shopping, staycations, travel, etc. Now, assuming all of this holds true and using conservative estimates versus the company's own guidance and projections, FY27, the GOV could actually be over 20,000 crore with an EBITDA percentage of 3% of GMV, telling you the absolute EBITDA could be close to around 600 crores. Now, if you just juxtapose the current deal multiples to that itself, which means the business could value itself by over 20,000 crores. That's a 10 to 12 times jump over the 2,000 crore that they've paid for this business. And this does not even account for newer use cases or further synergies and, live event IP valuations, etc. as well. Now, for normal, deals, a 10 to 12 times jump in 2 years seems extremely high. But for Zomato, it's par for course. We've seen that with Blinkit as well. From the price that Zomato paid for Blinkit in 2022, the valuation of Blinkit itself has rallied by over 20 times, with brokerages citing further upside for quick commerce as well. So the short point, the bottom line is that the street expects at least 10 to 12 times valuation extraction from District, which the management has earlier said will be their third major value driver in the B2C space.
All right, Mangla, many thanks. Up next on India Business Hour, Tim Walz accepts the Democratic Party's vice presidential nomination at the Chicago convention, where popular talk show host Oprah Winfrey makes a surprise appearance. Catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. At least 17 people are dead and 40 injured after an explosion at a pharma factory in Andhra Pradesh. According to the police, a solvent leak is likely to have triggered the fire, which led to the blast in a reactor on Wednesday. Many employees who suffered severe burn injuries have been shifted to the hospital in Visakhapatnam. State Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has ordered a high-level probe, also announced a compensation of 1 crore rupees for the families of the victims.
It is a very unfortunate incident, very sad incident. I am feeling very bad about it. By seeing this incident, we are having a committee to go through all the lapses. They will give a report. On the basis of that, I will take some actions. And at the same time here, we are having some systems as on today. How to improve our systems, that also I am working now.
Kolkata Police and CBI have submitted their status reports on the probe in the RG Kar rape and murder case to the Supreme Court. The court, while criticising the police's conduct in handling the case, has said the issue must not be politicised. That's not all. It's also urged protesting doctors to resume their duties, assuring them that the recently formed National Task Force will hear their concerns. The Resident Doctors Association at Delhi's AIIMS has called off their ongoing strike after assurances from the court. The court has also pulled up the West Bengal government over the police's alleged delay in registering the case.
What is the reason why the FIR is lodged almost 14 hours after the discovery?
Because we asked the parents, he says we'll give a formal complaint. That's all on the record.
Second, he was the principal of the college. He should have come straight away to the college and directed the filing of the FIR. Who was he in touch with?
The Bombay High Court has come down heavily on the police and state governments in Maharashtra over the sexual assault of 2 4-year-old girls who were inside their school in the Thane district last week. The court questioned the school authorities for not reporting the incident on time and also slammed the police machinery for not working unless there is a public outburst. The court asked, and I quote, "If the school is not a safe place, then what is the use of speaking about the right to education?" End of quote. The National Conference President Farooq Abdullah has said that his party will fight the upcoming Jammu and Kashmir polls in an alliance with the Congress party. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and leader Rahul Gandhi met the Abdullahs at their Srinagar residence earlier today. The contours of the seat-sharing agreement yet to be finalized. Congress workers staged protests across India over the Adani Hindenburg controversy. The Congress party demands the resignation of the SEBI chief Madhavi Puri Butch, who was named in the latest Hindenburg report. The party has also demanded a joint parliamentary committee probe into the accusations. Madhavi Puri Butch has denied the accusations. Prime Minister Modi met Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk in Warsaw during the first leg of his two-nation visit. The Prime Minister voiced deep concern over the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine and the conflict in West Asia. He said it is India's firm belief that a solution to any problem cannot be found on the battlefield. The Prime Minister will travel to Kyiv in Ukraine and is scheduled to meet President Zelensky. His visit to Ukraine comes a month after he visited Russia and met President Putin.
यूक्रेन और पश्चिम एशिया में चल रहे संघर्ष हम सभी के लिए गहरी चिंता का विषय है। भारत का यह दृढ़ विश्वास है कि किसी भी समस्या का समाधान रणभूमि में नहीं हो सकता।
US President Joe Biden has pressed Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu to show urgency in sealing a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Biden spoke to Netanyahu over the phone on a day when 22 people reportedly were killed in Gaza. The overall death toll has now crossed 40,200 since the start of the war in October last year. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz formally accepting the Democratic Party's nomination as Kamala Harris's running mate ahead of the November U.S. presidential elections. A military veteran and a former teacher who also coached a high school football team, Walz rallied support for Harris and said they've the right team. Television icon Oprah Winfrey also addressed the crowd at the Democratic Party's convention, urging voters to choose common sense over nonsense, also hitting back at the Republican Vice President candidate J.D. Vance for his childless cat lady jibe.
You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. So let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready.
Let us choose. Let us choose truth. Let us choose honor. And let us choose joy. Because that's the best of America. But more than anything else, let us choose freedom. Why? Because that's the best of America. We're all Americans, and together, let's all choose Kamala Harris.
Well, the Democratic National Convention there. Now, the body of British tycoon Michael Lynch has reportedly been retrieved days after a yacht sank off the coast of Sicily during a storm. Lynch was among 6 people who were missing since the incident. His wife was rescued along with 14 other people. The search for his 18-year-old daughter is still underway. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. The news will continue right after this. We're back in a moment with plenty more.